And hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, it's so great to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I have brought you another terrific show today. We're going to highlight another wonderful theater that's in our area. It's called Drama Works Theater. It's based in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and Ed Wilhelms, the founder, is my guest today. And Ed, welcome back. So nice to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks.
I'm glad to have you. And as you may remember, what I like to do is introduce the guest to the viewer again. So would you tell us about your background?
Oh. She knows I don't like to talk about myself.
Yeah, that's okay.
So my background is I started at the age of 16, kind of by accident, but I started acting at 16 in Summerstock. And got paid $5. But that was a long time ago. So, and after high school, I had a chance to go to C.W. Post College on a scholarship, an acting scholarship. And then, but New York was dragging me in. So, and I'm from New York anyway, so it wasn't, so I decided to go to New York, and I studied at the American Theater Wing, which had a school at that time. They've since closed it for many years. But and then from there, I went to a place called the Raymond Moore Professional Training Center, which was on Cape Cod, and I stayed there for a couple of years and really started producing and directing and acting there on the Cape, and then eventually came back to New York. So I've done lots of acting, television commercials, live performances on Boston Public Television. Let's see, worked for ABC television for a while. I've done a lot, just have never finished a play that I've started to write. I haven't done that, but I would say the last 20 or so, I've concentrated strictly on producing and directing.
Did you, well, being that you've started that 20 years ago, how was it to give up the acting? Did you decide that you came to a certain point that you decided that was enough?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I found directing. That was what I wanted to do. And it's very funny you talk about producing, but the president of the American Theater Wing was Helen Menken, a wonderful actress. And she, I had to go into her office one time because I didn't have any money and I couldn't continue studying there. And she said, consider yourself paid for. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Wow.
So she gave me a full scholarship. But she said to me, someday you're going to be a great producer. So I think she thought I was somebody else. So I just kept my mouth shut and, took her grace with me. And but it's funny that she said that, because I didn't ever think I would turn into a producer, but I did, and a director. So, and then of course you do, after a certain period of time, like many actors, when you reach a certain age, learning lines becomes difficult for lots of folks. I mean, I know of folks that are older that don't have a problem. And I think that comes from constantly working, which, but I don't do that anymore. So, but that's another issue too, learning lines.
Well, I'm a former actor, and learning the lines was a difficulty for me, and I couldn't do it now at my age anyway.
No, it's horrible. I would rather I have a saying that I tell young actors that have to learn their lines. I would rather wallpaper a living room with my ex-mother-in-law than learn lines.
Now, you learned your craft of acting through education and doing.
Yeah.
How'd the producing and the directing come about? Did you learn that along the way?
Pretty much. And you can learn a lot about directing from directors, which is, and you learn a lot about acting by doing. You have to do. You can take all the courses in the world you want. That's great. At the American Theater Wing, we never opened a book. There were no books. What we did was we worked. We did scenes. We worked at it. You know, we learned lines, and which was the best experience any actor could have. You want to go to school and open books, and you think that's how you have to have that interaction with other human beings that are trying to do the same thing, and that goes for directing as well. It's like if you want to become a chef, you have two choices. You go to school and learn, open the books, or you get a job as a dishwasher and keep your eyes open and your ears open, and then eventually you'll be a chef.
Probably people are saying out there, yes, I know about acting, but I don't know what a director does. I don't know what a producer does. Could you tell us what each of them, what their responsibilities are?
Well, a producer has the money. The
Yeah.
producer has the money, so he puts up the money to get the rights, to get everything he needs. But he also, in many cases, has a crew. He'll have a director that he has in mind. The director also may have a crew, may have a staff. So the producer basically is the driving force behind any project, with the final say about everything. The director has the artistic responsibility for the entire show. And a lot of directors kind of let some of the technical parts kind of leave that up to other people. But the director is responsible for, is there sound in this play? You know, background sound, or what about the lights? How are we going to design the lights? You know, it's a hands-on everything. It isn't just working with the actors. It's also working with tech. It's a vision. I just finished a show that took place on stage in two parts of the world. And the way we did it with lighting was that they never mixed. You never saw really these two places on Earth until you needed to. So tech plays a big part in it. And a lot of directors just don't involve themselves in it.
You did mention in the beginning about your chapter in Florida. Tell us what took you there.
The weather. I don't know. I had this idea that I would retire. You know, this silly idea. My son lives in Florida, so although my daughter lives up here, so you know, at least I have a connection to Florida, and my parents retired there, so I kind of knew the area, and so we went down and did house shopping and looking around and wound up there, and it was horrible, and I hate it, and I'll never go back. And I was bored to tears because I'm not the kind of person to sit around the pool and talk politics. I'm not doing that,
right.
You know. So I started directing, and then discovered that I needed to open up a theater, because the plays that they were doing in Central Florida, I kind of lost interest in the types of plays they were doing. They were doing, you know, stuff for the tourists, basically. Mm-hmm. Silly stuff, you know, no guts to it. So I said, well, I'm not going to do this anymore, but I need a place to do it, so I'll open a theater. That's what I did.
Let's talk about DramaWorks Theater. You're the founder of it, Old Saybrook. What made you decide to open up a theater up here, let alone in Old Saybrook?
Because it's what I do.
That makes sense.
So, you know, and I had, and again, it's all about it's all about having control over what you want to do, what you want to produce, what you want to direct, what you want to show an audience, the stories that you want to tell. And I just, I'm a pain in the neck. I want to bring stories to the public that are going to be interesting, that's going to be good theater that we can do well, and make them think about some stuff when they leave the theater. How many times you leave the theater and somebody says, "What? 2 or 3 days later, what'd you see?" I want people arguing with each other when they leave the theater, maybe, or at least be moved in some direction. So I pick those kinds of plays. I don't pick fluff.
Tell us about the building itself. It's not a usual place. It's Old Saybrook, of course, but you picked an interesting spot.
It is an interesting spot. It's the kind of place that a gangster would take somebody to kick, to whack them. I had somebody ask me that one time. He was from California, and he wanted to rent the space for a one-man show. And he pulled up, and I met him at the door. And he says, "I'm not going to get whacked going in here, am I?" No. It was flex space, a commercial space. And there were 4 units. And one of the units was empty for about 2 years. And it was pretty bad. It was basically an empty space. But the town rezoned that whole area. And when I researched the zoning, it was zoned for theater. And I couldn't believe it. Who's going to put a theater there except some jerk from Brooklyn, New York, So I went in with clipboard and paper and a 25-foot ruler, started measuring out where the theater was and where I'm going to put the seats. And the real estate guy's looking at me like I really need medicine. This guy needs to be on something, and everything worked. I could just picture it because I had already done it in Florida and basically the same configuration, basically. I said, "Okay, I'll take it, let's go." And it took about 3 months to get it built on the inside. And then we didn't open, but we went in and started rehearsal on the first show, and we're 2 weeks into rehearsal, and then COVID.
Right.
Shut down for a year and a half. No help. Year and a half. Devastating.
Devastating.
And, theaters in general across the country are still recovering. We're only getting, as a industry, we're only getting 40%, roughly 40% of our audience back. New York was hit very badly. So.
Okay, let's hold that thought and take a break.
All right.
I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Keep 2025 fraud-free with these 3 tips from Better Business Bureau. Be wary of unsolicited emails from a person or company. Remember, scammers can make emails look like they are from a legitimate business, government agency, or reputable organization. Never click on links or open attachments in unsolicited emails. If you haven't met a person face-to-face, don't send them money. This is especially true if the person asks you to transfer funds using a prepaid debit card or Cash App. Money sent to strangers in this way is untraceable, and once it's sent, there's no getting it back. And resolve to research the retailer before entering payment information when shopping online. Ask, is this a person or business I know and trust? Do they have a working customer service number? Where is the company physically located? And have I checked to see if others have complained? Visit bbb.org to read complaints and reviews and find a trusted company near you.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, so great to have you. Hope you're enjoying the show, as always. And we're talking about Drama Works Theater, which is based in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. And Ed, you brought this wonderful piece of paper that talks about your beautiful schedule. Why don't we talk about what's coming up at the theater?
The first show, which opens March 28th, is Annapurna. Annapurna is a mountain. And it's very, very funny. This year, we have almost every show has humor and drama. It's like real life, it's the way we are in the kitchen when we're talking to somebody. We laugh and then we're yelling at each other, But Annapurna is the story of a man and a woman who have been divorced for 20 years. And she shows up after 20 years and wants to have a reckoning with him. He does not remember why she left him. She doesn't believe that you don't remember. It finds it very hard to believe. Their son now is all grown up, and he's researched to find the father. So he's on his way. He's driving there. So that's kind of why she came, is to get him ready for his son's visit. He's also dying. And so it's I know it sounds tragic, but it's life. And it's so funny in the beginning. It's so funny. The guy has a dog that eats everything and refuses to go to the bathroom outside. Okay. I mean, it's just hilarious.
And the next one?
The Art. Again, it's a comedy. And it's a French comedy. So it's a little sophisticated, which is kind of nice. It's not slapstick. But this guy buys a painting. He's very proud of it, spent tremendous amount of money. It's all white. It's all white, and there's some diagonal white lines that you can barely see because it's all like the same color. And he's very proud of it. And one of his best friends, he invites over to observe, to look at it. And he thinks he's kidding. So this causes a big uproar between their friendship. And then there's a third friend who doesn't want to get involved. He's got problems of his own, which we find out about in the play. It's funny. It's really enjoyable.
Okay, how about Macbeth?
Now, Macbeth is interesting. This is based on an actual event. Macbeth features 7 teenage girls, and they have a Shakespeare club, and they've all memorized Macbeth, and they've all taken different parts in Macbeth, and they've decided that they're going to meet after school in an empty lot somewhere, and they're going to do Macbeth. They're going to perform it. And they get into it, and they do Macbeth. It's really it's a great telling of the tale from the eyes, through the eyes of adolescents, and how they can get into it and relate to it. It's a fascinating piece, and it's Macbeth. I mean, it's not, nobody fooled around with the language.
No.
It's the actual Shakespeare play, except it's being done by these younger folks. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting theater.
And how about The Father?
What can I say about The Father? It was a movie that I watched, and Olivia Colman was in it, and I forget the actor's name. Award-winning actor. But at any rate, again, a French film. It was actually a play. But I saw the movie, and at the end of the movie, based on the play by, and I was so moved by it that I went and got a copy of the play, then I got the rights to it, and we're going to perform it, as you see. But it is the story of a man who has dementia. And it's a tough topic, but it's handled so very nicely and professionally by the playwright. And it shows him going from his apartment to finally the home that his daughter has sent him to. In fact, the entire play takes place in this home. But we see the set through his eyes, and the character through his eyes, all the characters. So the male nurse, to him, is not the male nurse. The male nurse is his son-in-law, for example, let's say. So the audience is seeing everything through his eyes, but it changes, and the set changes during the play. It's a fascinating piece of theater. I don't know how we're going to pull it off.
And how about assisted living?
It's fun. It's fun. It's about a girl a young lady who is taking care of her mother, who's upstairs. She's not well, and she has no time for herself, and she needs to hire somebody to be at the house because of her mother while she does stuff. She, has a life. And so this younger man comes and he applies for the job. It's like no experience. And but she hires him, and there's a little romance there. But she also has a brother who's a ne'er-do-well, and he has a girlfriend who shows up, knocks on the door, and she's got a little bit of, she's going to have a surprise pretty soon, so it's fun. It's a lot of fun. How a family gets along, how they don't get along, the outside influence with this young man. It's just a lot of fun.
You had mentioned the rights. What does rights mean, and how is it that you be able to secure a play?
There's various publishers of plays, and I get lots of emails about plays from different organizations, different publishers. And so I research, I find a play I want to do, or I find a play that should be done, and I will contact and you do it online, and you just send in a request for a license to perform it, and you pay for everything up front.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole industry has changed. Everybody wants money up front.
Your website, dramaworkstheater.org. What will the viewer find when they visit it?
They're gonna find some photos of past shows, which is kind of fun to look at. They're gonna see what's coming up. They're gonna see what kind of shows we've done in the past. They're going to see about auditions. If anybody wants to come and audition, they'll see what we're currently auditioning for, which is art, on the 15th and 16th, Saturday, Sunday of February. And the other audition dates for the rest of the shows that we're casting.
What does the future look like? Do you have a year plan out, 5-year plan? What's
I
the theater
actually
look
really
like?
I've always had 5-year plans. And we're at 5 years now, so it's now, but COVID has really screwed us up.
Sure.
So I've started a new 5-year plan, which basically is to try to cut back on expenses, because if we're going to live with smaller audiences, something's got to give, and I will not go up on ticket prices. There's other ways to do that. I changed the bulbs from fluorescent to LED in the ceilings. I just switched from oil heat to gas heat, which might save about 40%, 40%. So I'm doing everything I can to keep the ticket prices down. What I did, I made a deal with the landlord when I paid for the oil to gas conversion. I said, what you can do is keep the rent the same for 5 years.
Okay.
So I got that deal. So he's being helpful. So
We are slowly starting to run out of time.
Of course.
It always happens with us. We could talk forever.
Yeah.
What are your closing thoughts for the viewer? What would you like them to know?
I think I would like them to know that we really strive at DramaWorks really to bring good theater, good stories, human stories, stories that connect people, It's a small, intimate space. Everybody's very comfortable. The chairs are very comfortable.
Yes, they are.
But I want people to come to Old Saybrook and not go to Off-Broadway. You're going to see the same shows. The quality of acting is we have professional directors. The quality of acting is very high, very high. I mean, some of these folks could be making a living at it in New York, you know, and we're developing. I'm just finishing up a class, and we're developing actors as we go along also. It isn't just you come in, audition, you get the part. We'll work with you. I take people that have no experience whatsoever, and I put them on stage and work with them and work with them and work with them, and bam, they're acting.
Okay,
It's a
thank you.
wonderful feeling.
Thank you so much for being here. We have run out of time, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here so much.
It's great to be here.
Thanks. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. In case you need to reach me, I'm at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you have a super day today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.